Hey everybody, it's Kent Hebison with Living in Lubbock, Texas, and here we are with Brett Dunlap at Texas Tech Credit Union. He's going to help us understand a little bit more numbers as far as why right now might be the perfect time for people to buy instead of waiting. Brett, I appreciate you coming by and spending some time with us.
Yep.
I asked you the other day a little bit about some interest rates that we talked about. Kind of give me an idea, what are you seeing right now, and what should people be aware of?
So, I mean, we've been preaching for a long time. Let's buy now. And why do we say that is because what happens when interest rates start to come down is we're going to see a big influx of people that are getting off the sidelines that are wanting to purchase a house. Okay. So yes, in theory, we want to have that better interest rate. That's great. But right now, there's a lot of people sitting on the sideline that are waiting for those rates to come down. And when they do come down, everyone is going to be trying to buy a house. Okay. So right now is an opportunity for you to be able to get a house that maybe you're not going to spend as much money on.
Okay.
For instance, a $250,000 house now might be $275,000 when rates do drop because of that demand for the house.
That pent-up demand.
Right.
So what you're saying is whenever the rates drop really, really low, we're going to see even more demand, which creates multiple offer scenarios,
Absolutely.
Much like what we saw in the pandemic at the time, right?
Yes.
And so when we were in the pandemic, I mean, I know I saw some crazy stuff. People were going all over the place, spending, I know some of our clients were having to go $25,000 over asking, and the property wouldn't appraise. So, I mean, they're literally paying $25,000 more out of pocket to get into that home just because the demand was so high at the time. What are some of you?
We saw that a lot. As a lender, we're only able to lend on, the appraised value or the purchase price. But if that appraised value is lower than the actual purchase price, then that's all we can lend on. And so what do you have to do as a buyer is you have to come up with those additional funds. Okay. So that's extra money that you're going to be spending to get a better interest rate if you're waiting, right? Why not get it now and just get it at that lower price, less out of pocket, and just refinance when rates get better?
So people's misconception, it sounds like, is, hey, I'm going to get a better rate on a buy, but I'm going to overpay for a home.
Absolutely. Yep.
So almost contradictory, right?
Buy now.
And so buy now, hold, nobody tells you when you have to sell, right?
Right.
And so we know in the history of real estate, values, they haven't stayed low. They've appreciated and gone up. So, I mean, if the market takes a dip, they're still okay. They just ride it out. Just like our investments as far as stocks and things like that. Everybody always says, buy and hold.
Right. That's
what real estate is. So prime example, and sometimes people just need to have it broken down. And I know sometimes I have to have it dummied down a little bit, So just simple, basic numbers. So right here, we're looking at $275,000 if the rates go down to 4.5%. And you've got roughly a payment of, with principal and interest, right, of $1,393 a month, right? Another thing, as far as like what you're saying, if it goes down and that price is $275, and right now, say the rates are 6%, right, pretty close. And price at $250,000, and the payment's only $1,499.
Mm-hmm.
So you're literally talking just $100 difference a month, right?
Right. And you're financing an additional $25,000 in that scenario when that price goes up, right?
Right. And so you're not really saving much. I mean, as a matter of fact, that's less than $4 a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if people really took that and put that in perspective, instead of whenever the rates do go down to 4.5%, like you said, and we're at $275, they're having to break their piggy bank just to get into the house.
Absolutely.
And so, they're actually going to be negative equity for longer, right?
Yep. Yeah. And that kind of goes back into what I was saying as far as that house still has to appraise for that amount, right? And you might be coming out of pocket with additional funds that you weren't prepared to spend.
You just made a really great point that I wasn't even thinking about. Whenever y'all have to lend on the loan amount and it has to come in an appraised value, whenever there's a high demand market for buying, right, they're having to eat that difference. What are you seeing right now in a house whenever the demand is a little bit lower just because of the rates are a little bit higher? What are people's advantages there? Are they having to overpay for an appraisal?
No, absolutely. No, I mean, what we're seeing now is the market is stable, and we're actually seeing a lot of appraisals come in over value versus what people are paying right now. So that means you have equity in your house.
Okay. So here we go. Now this is exactly what we wanted to do for you guys. We wanted to show you all the difference of psychologically what we tell ourselves versus what factually is happening. So what we're seeing right now, because of the rates, it has normalized the market to where people can actually buy and make a good investment is what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So you're now your purchase, whereas whenever you get a lower interest rate and a bidding war, your purchase isn't protected because you're having to overpay. Now your purchase is protected because the appraisal actually is your safety net. You literally can use that as a final negotiation, is that the house has to appraise. Therefore, if it comes in short, you're not coming over. It's actually coming down for you. And so it sounds to me like there's way more pros to buying in this type of market than there are buying even with a lower interest rate market.
Absolutely.
Because one of the perfect things is whenever you take advantage of buying right now, the property is still going to appreciate. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it takes a dip like in '08, it still came back and rebounded stronger than it ever had. And on top of that, you made the purchase ahead of time. When the rates do go down, you're not in a bidding war. You're just simply in a refinance position. So Tell me a little bit about what that looks like.
As far as refinancing goes?
Yeah. So, I mean, if they bought today at a 6%, right?
Right.
And say the rates drop next summer to 4.5%.
4.5%.
What do they lose by doing that?
What do you mean, what do they lose?
What does a buyer lose by buying and being able to refinance at 4.5%?
I don't guess I understand what you're saying.
Nothing, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you bought at 6% and you think, oh, I wish I would have waited, but the rates go down, you got equity most likely.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And you get to refinance, so you got to double dip.
For sure. And you don't lose the opportunity of potentially not getting that house that your dream house. I mean, you finally go find that dream house and there's 8 other people that's bidding on that house as well. There's a good chance that you may not get the house.
Exactly. We saw that a lot, right? In the pandemic, we saw that there was literally almost no first-time buyer market.
Right.
I mean, investors were bidding on the homes, buying them as rental properties,
right?
Which is what a lot of these first-time home buyers still are doing, is renting because the rates. Right. And so I know we're talking about rates going down and, all the beautiful things, but we also know rates did go up, right?
Right.
And so historically, would you say that it's likely that the rates will stay down or will they go up again?
So right now, all the experts are saying that we have seen the peak and we are going to start seeing a decrease in rates. And we've already seen that today. All the job reports are coming out. Everything is great. We are starting to see a decline in interest rate, which goes back to our point right now. We're going to see a lot of people get off the sidelines and start buying.
Right. And so whenever that season, and we always know that everything comes in a season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do those low rates stay forever?
No.
And so, again, if they buy now, they can refinance when the low rates come in. Right. But if they always think that there's a bubble. I've got friends, I know you probably have friends that always say, there's a bubble, I'm waiting for it to burst, right?
Right.
I've got my friends who did that, and it cost them another $100,000 just because they waited, right? So we always know that it'll go down, and at some point it will go back up again, right?
Yeah.
So if you continue to tell yourself that I'm going to wait, in the end you have a higher risk of pricing yourself out of the market, right?
There's always a risk of it going up, and that's exactly what we saw. Several years ago, we were at 3%, and we were at 7-8% at one point. So that's why everyone waited. But yeah, I mean, you always run the risk of rates going up as well. We're in election year. Who knows what's going to happen? Right,
and we remember our parents and grandparents had 10, 12, 15%.
Oh, yeah.
So there'd be a whole lot different conversation going on if they didn't buy and then waited that long.
Yep.
If you buy at 6% and the rates go up, do you ever have to do anything to your rate?
Nope, you're good.
So you're locked in and safe and protected. So again, so you're protected by the appraisal. You're protected by having less offers. You're more likely to have a higher appraisal than what your purchase price is right now. You're seeing more concessions right now. Am I correct?
Every deal that I get right now has concessions. And why that's a benefit is you get to bring, as a buyer, less to the table than what you would typically bring. And in a market to where there's multiple offer situations, you're not going to get those concessions.
Right. So in the pandemic, we didn't see any of that, right? There was zero negotiation.
People were doing appraisal waivers.
Yeah. And that's crazy because the biggest thing is you want to be able to negotiate. You want to be able to try to save as much of your hard-earned money as possible. And whenever you leave it up to the market to do that, well, you kind of lost control of your own investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what we want to educate our buyers on today. We want to educate you on because You might be a first-time buyer. You might be someone who hasn't bought in 20 or 30 years, but it's time again. We want to make sure that you're informed, you make the right decision, and you connect with some amazing people who know exactly what they're doing. Brett Dunlap has been doing this a long time. Texas Tech Credit Union is a phenomenal local lender with a solid reputation, and you're not going to go wrong with that. And we would love to earn your business, protect your investment so that it can be a great asset for your family in the future.